If you have been keeping up with live streams, we've been experimenting with the Ancient Fairy cards, and they have a one card speeder. We don't have it in archetypes one card speeder, so we have to look towards other archetypes that can possibly facilitate that. And before we get started into the combo, I want to establish something so you can have a better understanding as to how to build these type of decks, because a lot of the times you're just going to rely and hope that this resolves, which is not the optimal way to view it. You want to ensure that you have some form of sequence that can bait interactions, so by the time you get to this point, it can go unhindered, which is why this guy is so important. And being able to have access to this to synchro him is how this deck is meant to function, because every now and then you might get lucky and you can resolve speeder without having to do this route, and the only way you do that is by baiting interactions to ensure that this being summoned by with no protection can resolve. So with that in mind, the Ancient Fairy got new cards. You got Ancient Fairy herself, and then the new upgraded version, Ancient Fairy Life Dragon. For those of you that don't know what this card does, level 8 Dragon Synchro. It's a generic card. If this card is synchro summoned, you can draw one card, decent enough. Or if World of Spirits is on the field, add one light monster, beast, plant, or fairy, or one Eternal Sunshine from your deck to your hand instead. So if you control their archetype field spell, you can search for a more specific card. It comes in handy, and I'll explain later. You can only use this effect of Ancient Fairy Life Dragon once per turn. Your Ancient Fairy Dragon and monsters that mention it can attack while in defense position. Apply their defense for damage calculation. You could just attack with them in defense, which is something that's quite crucial because of the field spell. But now that we established a bit of insight on how this is meant to be functioning, just keep that fundamental in mind. And then we have the actual cards, the actual starter that gets everything going. Regulus, the Fairy Beast. It's a common, it's a level 4 beast. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one spell trap that mentions Ancient Fairy Dragon from your deck to your hand. So that's the field spell, or it searches Eternal Sunshine, which is their trap. During your main phase, you can special summon one level 4 or lower light monster, beast, plant, or fairy from your hand in defense position. So this is how you get your extender, right? This is how you get your synchro. This is how everything gets going, because this will search your field spell, then the field spell will search this. But we'll get to that. This is what you're going to be summoning generally. Its grave effect is, it's okay. It's basically replenishing your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one field spell in your graveyard, place it on the bottom of your deck, then draw one card. You can only use each effect of Regulus, the Fairy Beast, once per turn. Basically, it replaces itself while you're sequencing off. But this is what generally you're searching off of the field spell for this. The only issue I have with this is that they're not interchangeable, meaning this could only search the spells and traps, and this can search the monsters. But if they were interchangeable, it searches anything, that would make this a lot better, but it's not that way. So basically, upon activation, when this card is activated, you can add one monster that mentions Ancient Fairy Dragon from your deck to your hand. So that's either of these guys. You can only activate the following effects while you control a level 7 or higher light dragon synchro monster. Each time a monster is special summoned in attack position, change it to defense position. So that's quite relevant because it puts some niche scenarios in your favor, where like summoning a Fenrir doesn't really pose any threat, because usually the way they bait with Fenrir, they go battle phase, attack, force an interaction, whereas this just puts it in defense mode, which is pretty funny. Once per turn, during the end phase, destroy all attack position monsters on the turn player's field. You can only activate one World of Spirits per turn. That's where the effect of this comes up, where everything can attack and defense. So everything will be in defense, and you have like pretty beefy monsters that have huge defenses, so you can just attack with them in defense, which is huge. And the ability to just destroy link decks is huge, because they can't go to defense. They're gonna remain in attack, which is pretty funny. But anyways, this card searches this card. So Spore the Fairy Seed. If this card is special summoned, you can count the number of monsters you control and have this card gain up to that many levels. So basically what this means is this will search this, and then this will summon this from hand, because it's a light plant. So when it's a special summon, you count the amount of monsters. So in this case, there'll be 2. So you can add it to its level. So you plus 2. So it's 1 plus 2. So level 3. So the more you have, it'll depend on what you can do, because you have various options. If you control Ancient Fairy Dragon or a light monster, beast, plant, or fairy, and this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. Also, you cannot special summon from your extra deck for the rest of this turn except synchro monsters. You can only use this effect of Spore the Fairy Seed once per turn. So that's how you get the one card combo going. And I'll get to it, but I just want you guys to understand what these cards do and what they're meant to facilitate, because some of you don't know what these cards do. I just learned them last week. So generally, this is good because it gives you access to your field spell, which then utilizes the effect of Ancient Fairy Dragon, the OG, popping it to search your junction. But here's a trap that you don't necessarily have to play, but I feel like it's just required, just based off the sole purpose that you want to be able to pivot into it. So worst case scenario, you go this searches this, and it's an effect negation at the very least, right? Assuming you already have access to Spore. This being able to activate multiple times is quite huge, because sometimes if you get Charmed, you can play conservative. So let's say you summon this, you special this, right? And then you got access to this. You can choose to just set and pass, and that's 2 monster effects negation. Well, it's like, think of it like a skill drain, I guess. Based on the amount of monsters that mention Ancient Fairy Dragon, you can negate that many times. It's once per chain though. So you can negate once, resolve, negate another thing, resolve, because you control 2. That's pretty cool at the very least if you get Charmed. So that's why you need to play to allow yourself to have that play. Otherwise, you're gonna have to commit, and you don't necessarily want to be doing that. And then of course you have the engine requirements, right? You need these cards to actually play. This gets everything going, and then as you unravel the sequence, you get access to your synchrons, which is how the speeder is meant to be overwhelming, because it just swarms the field. You get access to your Stardust, your Revolution Synchron, and Assault Synchron. You could get away with just playing one copy of this, but there are lines where you need to send something off of Excel Synchron, so that's kind of why this is the only card that's up. And then of course you have more engine requirements, which would be Stardust Trail, Stardust Worm, Stardust Illumination, Synchro Rumble, and of course the Starlight Junction. This is how you bridge this into this to get access to Speeder. So this is just 18 cards that are required to function. Whatever supplementary engine that you feel is needed. We've been testing a few on stream. You can go ahead and check it out. It's been pretty wild. But this is all you need. If you have this, you can function. And let's get straight into it. So this is a true 1-card combo. It's not like a bait where, oh, it's a 1.5 because you need 1 card to discard. Like, oh my god, I hate those. Like, it's not necessarily a 1 card because you need another card. So it's like, it's still a random card, but still. The fact that you can like deplete your hand, like hand drop, and then top deck into this. We're gonna start off with this. So you're gonna normal summon, effect, giving you access to your field spell. Activate the field spell, searching a monster that mentions Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is going to be your Spore. You then activate Regulus effect, special a light, plant, beast, or fairy from your hand. And then this will trigger, increasing its level by up to the amount of monsters I control. Since I control 2, I can boost it up 2 more levels. So we're gonna max it out, increase by 2, so it's level 3. We're gonna go for Ancient Fairy Dragon. And then this is where you'll see 2 different combo variations. I'll show you the first one, which is a bit more simplistic, but a bit more obvious to counter. Since you control Ancient Fairy Dragon, you can special Spore from grave. Special. You're not gonna level module. You're just gonna leave it as it is. Use Ancient Fairy Dragon's effect, destroy a field spell, and then add a field spell, which gives you access to Stardust Junction. You then activate Stardust Junction. You synchro into Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Its effect will trigger special. And the cool thing about it here is, depending on the levels of the synchron you want to summon, you can level module, because this can only summon a synchron with a different level from the one you tributed. So for those of you that don't know what this does, you can tribute 1 tuner monster, special summon 1 synchron monster from your deck with a different level than the tributed monster had on the field. So that's what you need. So in this case, you don't level module, you just go ahead and use effects, tribute the Spore, and you summon a synchron. And this is where you special summon your Stardust Synchron. And then Stardust Synchron's effect is, whenever it's summoned by any means, you can search a spell trap that mentions Stardust Dragon. You then go ahead and search your Illumination, send 1 Stardust monster from your deck to the graveyard. Or if you control a Stardust Dragon or a Synchro monster that lists Stardust Dragon in its text, you can special summon it instead. You're gonna summon your Stardust Worm, and then right here is where you activate the effects of Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, meaning you can synchro into Speeder, and the synchros that are summoned up its effect will be unaffected by card effects, by your opponent's card effects. You summon Stardust, and then this will then summon out your Speeder. You resolve it, summon 1, summon 2, 3, 4. And then once you get to this point, you can finish off the sequence however you see fit. Everyone has different boss monsters that they like, preferences. There's no more Calamity, so there's no like objectively better route. So you can just choose whatever you want and then just finish off the sequence. But I like doing it this way, so you can copy this way as well if you want. We're gonna go into this, charge, we draw 1, we synchro into Crystal Wing. We then go into Crimson Dragon. This will search. It'll vary depending if you want to play Rumble or not. Like you don't necessarily have to play it, but it just elevates your end board. And then we're gonna go with Rumble, reviving our Stardust Dragon. Because then we're gonna go effective Stardust Synchron, tributing our Stardust. Okay. And then we're gonna trigger the effect of Assault Synchron, summoning back our Stardust. We then are going to use the graveyard effect of Stardust Illumination. So you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Stardust monster you control, increase or decrease its level by 1 until the end of this turn. You can only use each effect of Stardust Illumination once per turn, which is perfectly fine. We're gonna reduce. And this is meant to be the new Synchro, the new level 11, but I'm yet to get him, so you can play that instead, because it can be an end board piece, which is huge. Then here, you activate the effect of Crimson Dragon, targeting your Punisher, giving you the first Majestic, and then you still have Worm, right? Because you haven't summoned it by its own effect. So Worm's effect is, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, and you control a level 8 or higher Dragon Synchro monster, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. We don't necessarily use the entire effect because we can't really resolve it. We don't play that many level 1 dragons. So we special summon it, and then we're gonna go into a Herald. This helps us play a little bit around droplets, and it's kind of like a floodgate because everything that goes from hand or deck to grave is banished instead, which is huge in some matchups, like especially Fiendsmith. And then you're gonna be able to use the effect of Regulus. You banish itself to return a field spell to the bottom of your deck and draw a card. So you draw a card, and then you can risk it. You mill for Rev. If you mill a monster, it's not going to be ideal because then you won't be able to summon it. But if you mill Spell Trap, it's perfectly fine because Herald only banishes monsters from deck to grave. And then now you finish off your combo, ending on your Crimson Dragon. So off of one card, you're able to draw 2, and on an Omni, Effect Negation, and then a Synchro for a second copy of Shooting Majestic, which can protect your Herald. Because Starlight Junction has another effect. During your opponent's turn, if you special summon a Synchro monster from your extra deck, target one card on the field, shuffle it into the deck. That's crazy. And then that's how you protect this guy. That's pretty damn cool. But the issue with this line is how it starts. There's no real way to pivot, assuming you get interacted at a particular point, which is why I'm going to show you guys a different combo. The other combo is, I think it's a bit more resilient in regards to pivot points because of the way you sequence it. Because first and foremost, majority of the time when your opponent is trying to figure out what you're trying to do, they kind of rely on their fundamentals of card economy, right? Whether it be, 1 for 1, 2 for 1, -1, +1, right? So they rely on that to make a decision based off the lack of insight they have upon your deck. So this does exactly that. Okay, so you normal summon this, activate effect, searching your spirit, activate, search your spore, then activate, and be mindful that majority of these lines are a bit susceptible to imperm on this guy because this is how you get everything going. The only possible extension would have to be access to Rev, because then that gives you to Ancient Fairy, which then basically equates to this guy. So you increase by 2, make it level 3, go Ancient Fairy, effective Seed, and then you're going to use effective Ancient Fairy, pop in your field spell, giving you your Starlight Junction. You then activate Starlight Junction. So this is where it's going to deviate from the first combo. Usually you go into Asti here, Excel, Synchro, Stardust Dragon, but in this case, to kind of enter a convoluted sequence to keep your opponent guessing of what you're trying to do, because both combos will lose to an Ash on this being negated, right? That's kind of the issue with this combo. But this way, there's more lines of possible pivot points. So in this case, we're gonna go use Starlight Junction now, tribute to Spore, summon your Stardust Synchron, and then you're going to use the effect of Stardust Synchron, giving you Illumination. Up to this point, you still have this to be able to special from hand, whereas before you couldn't. So you could have used this as an extension, assuming you hard open the Stardust Synchron, which is huge, assuming this got Ash, compared to doing it the other way around when you've committed to the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon line. And that's a big difference. I feel that it's quite important. So then now, instead of sending or summoning your worm, you're going to send the trail. So graveyard. And remember how I mentioned earlier in the video where you want to bait interactions before you get to your actual objective, to the actual thing you want to resolve? This is basically doing that. So then now we're going to use the effect of Illumination Scrape effect, increasing by 1, making it 5. So 7 and 5 equals 12. giving you access to your Crimson Dragon, right? So we're just trying to bait here. We're trying to get responses to make sure that if we do have extenders, because this is all one card, right? We're just utilizing one card, that's it. And already we're going to replenish it because we're going to draw a card as well. We're going to have Rumble. And already, if they would have Nibiru us post this or on this, right, then it's perfectly fine because we have this established, which then turns into an XL Synchro Stardust Dragon, which then later gives us access to Speeder. So you can go Rumble, revive this. Assuming you have not used its effect to summon from hand yet, you can do it now, which is the biggest difference as well compared to the other line where you didn't have this as an option and attempting to bait interactions, which is something you have to do. It's so crucial because the main objective is make sure this resolves, right? So you can get your board. This is all bait. Okay, so then now you're going to get to the point where you tribute, special, trigger your trail because the monster was tributed. So for those of you that don't know what this card does, if a monster you control is tributed, except during a damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. And that's pretty good because it pairs well with Stardust Synchron. But the main payoff is the rest of the effect, which equates to being 3 bodies, assuming you summon her from Stardust Illumination. If a warrior synchron or Stardust synchro monster is synchro summoned using this card as a material, you can special summon 1 Stardust token, Dragon Light level 1, attack 0, defense 0. In some instances, for those of you that are aware of this deck, you know that there are times where you can special summon her, right? So that's 1 body. If you synchro and make a synchron warrior or Stardust, that gives you a token. That's 2 bodies, and a 3rd body is with her reviving herself off of trigger effect. So that's why she's insane. Okay, so now you're here, and if they didn't Nibiru you earlier, I'm not sure if they would do it now because it's such a convoluted line that who knows where they would have interacted, right? It'll vary, but this gives you better gauge on what you're able to do, assuming they were to interact here, right? And depending on how many extenders you have. Okay, so then now you go into your XL, these get banished. You go into your SD. So we're gonna go into chanting 1, chanting 2. The reason you do that is because depending on your hand, it being able to increase its level by 1 more can make the biggest difference. So we're gonna get a token because we made a Stardust Dragon, and then we'll summon back the Spore. So now you have the option of increasing its level by 4, so it'll be a level 5. But in this case, we'll just increase by 1. And then now we're going to use Crimson Dragon to target our Stardust, giving us access to the new Ancient Fairy Dragon. And then upon summon, we can draw a card because we don't have the field spell. Otherwise, we'd be able to search anything that mentions. We draw a card, and then now this turns into your Dispatter. So all we're trying to do here is just bait responses, bait interactions. We've done so much, we've yet attempted to make Speeder. If they've had interactions but they weren't sure where to drop them, by the time you get to this point, it'll be too late. That's kind of what you want to get to. You want to sequence in the direction where the longer they hold their interaction, the less impactful it is. And that's this point, because it doesn't really matter. Because at the very least, you can end on this and draw 2, compared to just being ashed on the Illumination to the prior combo, right? So then now, your Dispatter will use its effects, reviving your Stardust Synchron. And then now this is where it's kind of a bit too late if they had like another like an imperm or a hand trap or an interaction that they thought they can possibly hold for longer because they did not know if there was the right time to use it. Because remember, this is all of 1 card. You have 4 other cards. Then you're gonna go XL, summon this, and then go for Speeder. And this is the main goal of the deck. Summon this unhindered. 2, 3. The board is going to be slightly different. You're still going to get Omnis, but it's going to be a little bit different compared to the other one. But because of how early you had to use your Crimson, it'll affect the end result. So it's going to be more of a spot removal of a board setup, which is still pretty good. You're going to make your Changing here. You're then going to go into an 8, most likely Omega, so you can recycle one of your Synchros. And then you're going to make your Crimson. It's a fairly layered end board, right? And then you can use this, recycle your Ancient Fairy because you want to be able to make it later because you are playing more field spells. And at the end, you're going to go ahead and use the effect of your Regulus, banishing it, return a field spell from your grave to the bottom of your deck, and then draw a card. And then this will be your end board. It's still going to be 2 Omnis, not the 3rd one. You're not going to have access to your effect negation like Crystal Wing and your Omni with Herald, little Floodgate. But I think this is a little bit safer in regards to how convoluted and how you can sequence your turn in a way where you have more pivot options. And then on their turn, you activate this, target either one, right? And you're gonna summon the OG Majestic. It's a more devastating Omni because it nukes the board, right? So you tribute this, negate spell, trap, or monster effect, and because you have Assault engrave, you can revive it and do it again. And of course, you would have had the spin off of Starlight Junction. You have the banish because you banished Assault. And this is all off one card, right? So you have double Omni, spot removal. Assuming you banish before you use the Spatter's effect, you have a monster negate, or if not, a monster pop. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The Ancient Fairy cards are quite nice. If you've been keeping up with the stream, we've been trying out a few things with Castira, the toy cards. Being able to have something to be a one-card combo is not bad. The fact that you can be conservative. And another thing to note, you can even do a simpler line, which is pretty cool versus Malice. Malice being the deck that it is, it's insane. And the fact that this can search Lancea with just a single card is insane. Let's get straight into it. So you normal summon, activate effect, search your World of Spirits, activate, search for your Spore, you then activate Regulus, special Spore from hand, trigger effect, increased by 2, so it's level 3. You go into your Ancient Fairy Dragon, and in this case, you're not gonna pop. Usually we pop so we can get access to our Starlight Junction, but in this case, we just don't. So then we activate the effect of Spore, don't increase, just summon it back. And you make your Ancient Fairy Life Dragon. But because we control World of Spirits, we can search any light, plant, beast, or fairy from our deck. Or we can search for Eternal Sunshine. So we can go for a trap. This is like the basic one card combo. It's not the best, not the worst, it's decent. But the reason why I want to showcase this combo is because you don't have to search this, and we know that Malice is the best deck, which means we can search a light fairy, and Lancea is a light fairy. So versus Malice, one card being able to search that's just crazy. But that's basically gonna be it. I'm still working on the deck. Go ahead and check out the stream. There's a few variants we've been testing, but it's far from perfect. We're still just trying to learn this deck. I mean, this is quite simplistic. Like, this sequence is quite simple, but finding the proper supplementary engine is where we're having trouble. But we've been testing, and hopefully soon I'll get you guys the deck profile. And that's gonna be it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.